I'm going to start anyway. That's alright. My name is Ashley, and I'm an investigator, researcher, mainly a researcher, and an explorer now as well, because I'm trying to look at all different areas of paranormal and understand it a little bit better. This is what I'm going to try and go through today. It's quite a lot, so I'm probably going to rush through little bits of it, but there's a question point at the end. I'm not alone up here. I've got Mo and my friend Graham to come as well to give a different perspective, so to speak, on communication with spirits and paranormal sort of stuff. I'm going to go through how I look at the paranormal, my approach, about the survival, the Society of Psychical Research, Frederick Myers, because he comes up quite a lot in my research through lots of years after he died, which is a bit weird. I was saying that bit. And then how I understand communication from spirits and stuff, from my examples from investigations and time spent with mediums and stuff like that. And I've got two guests, Michael Bryan and Graham Smith, who are going to give back to perspectives. And then I'll call it conclusions, but it's not really a conclusion because there's no real answers yet, is there? So, and then after that I'll tell you a little bit about the Metacerebral project, which is something I'm working on with Matt Hall and various other teams and mediums and stuff like that to get some more answers and stuff. Ask some questions. Right. My approach is kind of broken down in some simple places. Investigation, I'll go out to all different locations around the UK. I'd like to go further. And then basically just study what all of us do, investigate, understand what's going on, look at the data, look at what we're feeling, understanding, speak with mediums, see what they're picking up as well. So I kind of look from both sides, basically take all that information in. I research the locations as well to make sure I pick up as much information as possible, so I can get a good background on all those locations. I would like to take a different approach as well. I like to look outside the box a little bit. I think you need to go in with an open mind into any of these locations, any of these kind of investigations or experiments and stuff like that, which is where the next bit comes in. Through time, psychologists, scientists have done loads of experiments with paranormal, but I like to kind of vary a few of them. I mean, two of the ones I use quite a lot, like the Singapore theory experiment and the Ganzfeld experiment, which brings some interesting results, especially with Ganzfeld when you use mediums who know each other for a long time. And then I like to develop basically those experiments so they sort of can help us more understand what's going on. There's a lot of it. The survival hypothesis. Does anyone know what that is? The survival hypothesis. Right. Basically, through time, we've all asked, anyone who looks at ghosts and tries to understand what a ghost is or spirit is, it's basically, they're looking at the survival hypothesis, which is basically trying to understand what happens after we die. So when you die, you want to know what happens next, what's next plane of existence. Do ghosts exist? Can they communicate with us? Are they around us all the time? This is basically survival hypothesis. The scientific look at that is basically, does our own consciousness exist once we've passed death? So, can we have one-to-one communication with someone because they're sentient after they've left their body, so like become a spirit, so to speak. I can't speak scientifically and spiritually, sort of. So basically, three ladies who describe the spirit questions, many different things. What happens to our soul when we die? Do we turn to something or someone else, and so many other different things. Fundamentally, the question is questioning the unknown, exploring this possibility built on what we believe and have faith in. The question itself is a subject area, although it encompasses most of the subject field I'm looking into, it's a massive area, because it's the top question that everything else sits underneath, basically. The Society for Psychical Research, they're like one of the main first ghost groups that started looking into this kind of thing. I mean, there's loads of them. But these guys are the ones that started looking at it in an objective manner. I mean, these are the three guys that set it up, Henry Gurney, Henry Sidgwick and Frederick Myers. Basically, Society for Psychical Research was founded back in 1882. The purpose was, as they put it, understanding events and abilities commonly described as psychic or paranormal by promoting and supporting important research in this area, and to examine allegedly paranormal phenomena in a scientific and otherwise. There was psychologists and stuff, so they spoke a lot, basically. Although there's another group, I like this group because they seem to have a good set of ideals and sort of like a good focus on how to drive forward. And they're still going to know today. You can look up on the internet, and they've got a massive website, a massive following. They really get fun research and that kind of stuff. And their mission back then, and probably still today, was to approach these very problems without prejudice or prepossession of any kind, and in the same spirit of exact and unimpassioned inquiry, which has enabled science to solve so many problems, once not so less obscure. Let's spot the debated. Basically, what we were saying yesterday in the round table about the unity, these guys, they're back at them. They do that, they bring it all together. Don't be dismissed by anything, look at it all objectively, take it all on board and get involved. Unfortunately, after they set all up in 1882, Gurney died in 1888, Sidgwick died in 1900, and then Myers died in 1901. But that wasn't kind of the end of it. Frederick Myers then began to come back, apparently, if you believe the information and stuff, after he died. Now, Myers himself, like I said, died in 1901, but in 1903, after he died, his book, which is a long book by the way, Human Personality and Survival of Bodily Death, was published, because obviously he must have meant something to the people around him to get that book out there. This book is a massive, massive book, and written from a psychologist's point of view, and I've tried reading it, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through it, and it's like the uncut extended version of Lord of the Rings, so it can go on and on and on. But in there, there's a lot of information about understanding the psychology of it, but his statue wasn't so much like it's all science. It was he understood mediums, he understood science, and he kind of contradicted it. Have you ever heard the word telepathy? Yeah? Yeah. This is the guy that came up with it. Call him that word. So, after he died, but his involvement in SBR was really set that up. But oddly, what happened after his death just kind of became the more apparent kind of stuff. Because not long after that, sorry about the slide, I only got some information. We have what's called, in the early 1900s, what's called the cross-correspondence, which oddly the SBR of that time also investigated. What it was, there's a lot of information on there. What it was basically, various different mediums from different parts of the world picking up bits of information that didn't work on their own, but when you put them together like a jigsaw puzzle, it made a message. So basically, it's from different sources, put it all together, and you get one message altogether. So it's kind of coded message, if you like, through mediums, but the medium wouldn't know what they got because it was still obscure on its own. But when you put it with the other bits and pieces, it kind of puts together better information. Montague Key, the SDR, described the cross-communication device by a small group of recently deceased personalities to defeat what is now called the super ESP hypothesis, which basically he's explaining that in order to prove that something is after death, minds are basically, well, I'll explain a bit more about that in a minute, but basically they're using their ability after they die to try and communicate with us again. It's very good. A message which is conveyed inherently meaningless, fragmented, different mediums at different time and places, and which made sense only when assembled, as well as so many ago. But on third party, eventually you have to get all that information from places that satisfy the requirements. Such a message would have been wholly meaningless to any single medium, so any piece on its own, rubbish. So, and then obviously these guys in the SBR put all this together beforehand, so they knew it had to be information like this to make it work. The cross-correspondence went on for years. I've gone about 50 odd years, I think it went on for. And there's lots, the SPR's got thousands and thousands and thousands of research papers on it, so I'm not going to say that they take a long time. But it began to prove that a bit of communication was going on, but it was done with a kind of coded manner, if you like. Yeah. Right. Now, the bit for which goes Frederick Myers is this bit. These are 4 of the mediums up here, which is what's called the Palm Sunset place, which is part of cross-correspondence. Now, in the earlier correspondence they got, they often followed on after Mars' death, which became known as the Estima case. That's someone dressed up as the Estima right there. They received messages by 2 mediums, but the medium which took around 18 months to work out what it was, and they figured it out that it was Myers because he had a bit of thing for this Estima, which is to do with philosophy and stuff like that, which he was all into, and they managed to link it back to things that he was interested in. But that Estima bit is important because it comes up again later on. The understanding of this cross-correspondence doesn't just display an interesting perception of communication, because obviously by sitting there and looking at the thing from different angles, but also just the existence of spirits out there trying to communicate with us. So it's not just us looking for them, it's them looking for us, basically. Whether that's perceptive or I don't know, whether the assumptions that have been made simply by the imagination is an understanding of various meanings. I don't think so, because, like I said, the information is different angles. The mediums themselves can know this information that forms some body shape. Does anyone ever heard of the skull experiment? Skulls are like skulls, and skulls in Norfolk Village. Has anyone heard of that? No? Oh, okay, cool. Basically, there's a 5-year investigation by 4 psychic researchers into life after death. Basically, what they had is they had 2 of them, there were two couples, I think it was. And one of them one of the couples had a house and in the basement they had a room they set up as pretty much like a seance room, if you like. There wasn't a seance per se. And they used it to communicate with spirits and further beyond that. And they continued to do it over this 5-year period, building up energies or whatever you like, so that the communication was good. So it began with Sue's experience in 1993 in Norfolk Village. The experiment shocked some of the senior members of the Society for Psychoristia. So SPR was involved with this again, funnily enough. The details of the skull experiment are priceless, just 5 years worth of research, and they're still going today doing other research as well, which is really quite interesting. Some of it's like, we always investigate in the dark, don't we? Some of the research they're doing it in the light and getting better results. So that's the 2 bits that I find the most interesting and take away from that is the first bit, which I'm not sure you can see much. They've done an experiment with a table, with the 4 mediums sat around the table. In the middle of the table they put, and this is all monitored by the SPR as well, in the middle of the table they put a wooden locked box. In the wooden locked box they put a piece of film, undeveloped film. The purpose of which was basically, whilst they're doing their communication, to see if anything would come on the film, because obviously it's magnetic media. And what happened was they got lots of stuff to come on the film. One of the things was this bit here, the Estima again, which they linked to Myers because, and that bit over there is basically the code that directly links to Myers. So that bit linked to Myers. So that's the first bit that I find quite interesting, that he pops up again and again. The second bit is, because I like gadgets, is this bit. The plans for what they called a communication device, or a germanium device. Have you ever heard of germanium devices? Communication, or they called it was a CDC, which is a transdimensional communication. Now, they built this device and tested it through an audio, because basically it's like a radio with a germanium crystal in the middle of it, and apparently got some really good results out of that. All this, if you want to know anything more about the skull experiment, you can Google it and you'll get loads of information. But basically, what I found cool about this is that this design here was signed over there by that, which is 888 TAE. And that TAE is the same signature as they match to a museum in America, which is actually Thomas Edison's signature. So you have to, that's Thomas Edison's design, basically, got saying that he's trying to communicate now from the other side by this film. So you've got the skull experiment, and they've got, this is only 2 examples of the film experiments are done. They've got loads of these, as well as pictures and stuff that come through, and too much to go on about basically here today. But that's my problem up again, and a device as well to communicate with. So giving us the means now to communicate, improving that they're coming back to talk to us. Right, now I'm going to go through some of my own sort of understandings and some investigations I've done and bits and pieces like that, and kind of try and pigeonhole different types of communication, if you like. So basically, I see communication from the scientific investigator sort of angle, where you've got spirit communication, which involves mediums, trance mediums, physical communication, where you see an object move, or if someone gets touched, the body contact, that kind of stuff. Visual communication, which is like light anomalies, manifestations, apparitions, things like that, or audio communications, where you've got EVP, which is electronic voice phenomena, where you've got recorded voices, taps or knocks, where it's like busting out, and you get the older kind of knocks in the background and go chasing that. Or you've got what I call environmental communication, which is variations that can't be explained in temperature, the light, humidity, magnetic field as well now, EMF, that kind of stuff, or run-of-the-mill personal experiences, which is still feelings or senses that you can't explain, but you can't quantify with a device or a gadget or anything else. This is one of the first investigations I've done overnight, which is at Salisbury Guildhall. It's not called a vibrating camera, it's a physical communication model. So basically, the first investigation, Paranormal Explorer at Salisbury Guildhall, which is an event-based sort of thing, it wasn't an investigation, it was an event. I experienced something which basically hooked me on the overnight investigations. We sat in a courtroom, and my wife, she mentioned a child's name, which I think was Emily, but literally as she finished off the word Emily, our digital camera just kind of vibrated across the desk in front of us. And she kind of panicked and headed out of the room, and I said, trying to figure out what's going on. So I got kind of, and that's kind of the desk area that was on. So basically just kind of before it was, and I spent a good, must have been half an hour, 45 minutes, sitting there trying to figure out how that would happen. And to this day, I can't quantify how that vibrated. I mean, there's no reason for it to happen, and there's no reason, I can't figure it out basically. But that's physical, as far as I'm concerned, physical communication. Whether it's the spirit of Emily saying, yes, you're right, that's my name, and vibrating the camera, I don't know. It could be a spirit saying, no, the name's wrong completely, vibrating the camera. I can't quantify that, this is a vibrating camera, it doesn't give me a yes or no. But equally, from a science tip, I have to kind of say, it's because we're sat in our haunted location that we're sort of generating the situation by ourselves, could have been telekinesis. Which is basically using our minds to move physical objects. So that's the vibrating camera. This is from my first investigation, the Royal Oak Pub in Swanage, which I went back to, and you'll see a few of them because I went back there quite a few times. During this investigation, basically myself and one of the locals, Pete, sat in an attic area and trying to communicate the spirit. So doing the old-fashioned, is there anyone here with us, if you could give us a sign. Basically I had a pocket watch, I put it between us on the floor, and I said, if there's a spirit with us, can you move the pocket watch? Now what? So basically the pocket watch like this, obviously. And we sat there and we watched it. The pocket watch physically didn't move itself. But after a while we became aware of the ticking sound. Now the pocket watch I took with me is my granddad's old one, and it hadn't run for a while. So basically, I knew it was running when I put it on the floor. Then all of a sudden, myself and Pete became aware of it ticking. And when I picked the pocket watch up, it was running and continued to run for about 20 minutes and then stopped. The problem was that it was never wound, it shouldn't have run, and yet it kind of, so it's a question of did they move the watch or get it wound, but is that their way of moving the pocket watch, so to speak? I mean, we were thinking that they'd moved the watch across the floor, but they'd moved the watch differently. I spent the next 3, maybe more months trying to figure out how that might have set off that watch. I mean, did I pull it out of my pocket and it wound for a bit or anything like that? And I must have done umpteen loads of experiments and stuff at home to try and get it to work, and I couldn't recreate the situation. So for me, that's an unknown. and a good bit of sort of weird evidence. In fact, I think Pete's really he got my taste. But now, this for me, this particular thing began to introduce the whole perception of communication, because it's like you ask for one thing and you get something else, and you have to try and understand what that means. I mean, for me, it's like, was it because we wanted that to happen? Do we use telekinesis but didn't quite get what the whole thing, so we got a little bit of it, or was it spirit messing around with us and winding up watching going there, go sleeping, or was it actually like trying to tell us to look at the perception and communication itself? So there's so many different variants you can look at to try and understand it. It gave me a different sort of, it gave me to help me look outside that box a bit more, to look at different angles. Right. What's this one? Right, this is we want to investigate the Explosions Museum in Gosport. Right, okay. Or the Explosion Museum in Gosport. Basically, we were investigating, 4 of us were investigating the ahve block, which is this block here. And basically, we rounded the stairs, which is that staircase there. And as we did, we kind of sorry, students. Oh, there you go. Sorry, let's go back a bit. This is the P-Bar Museum, this one. And what I call the moving ball. Basically, no, it's not a ball at all. This is again physical communication. We were investigating one of the levels of the first floor of the museum, and there's an area where countless groups have linked the activity there to a child. So in order to communicate with that child, we kind of used a kind of a play approach. So we're setting up stacks of blocks and things like that, and encouraging the child's spirit to communicate with us by knocking over the blocks or rolling the ball and some other objects and things like that there. But what we got is we actually managed to film one object which was sat sort of on the floor on its own, and it kind of just all of a sudden rolled. Now, on the night it was like, it rolled about this far. But actually rolled out this far. It was still great. But we then straight away afterwards tried to debunk it, as if it was like us and the floorboards had moved or anything like that, and we literally did actually dance around this object to try and debunk that. And we couldn't. The only way we could figure out how to make it work was if you actually pushed it with your finger. And then this thing just rolled. But to see that for itself, it's like, I mean, I'm not sure it's gonna. It doesn't let you play video. That's fine. I've got a video of that, so afterwards, if you want to see the video, give me a shout and I'll show you. Basically, yeah, it rolls about that far by itself, and we can debunk it. So we know we worked out why. But that's the video evidence basically I had then of physical movement happening. So then again, it telekinesis, because there was about 1, 2, 3, there was about 6 of us, I think, in that room at that time. So was we all willing the same thing to happen because we're going around doing display, building blocks and all this kind of stuff and asking about it? Or was there actually a spirit and it took us a little bit of energy just to roll that forward a little bit? That had been blocking possible. This was an EVP or an audio sort of representation of communication. EVP was the electronic voice phenomena, which is about this body voices being picked up and all that kind of stuff. Basically, we was investigating this admin block, which is completely empty and derelict, basically, inside. It's a great location, actually. I've got loads of stuff in there. We came around the staircase at the block, that picture right there. And as we came around, first person had a video camera, and they sort of scanned it up the stairs. And the second person, I think, came around, and then there was 2 others. No one was really talking. One person said it's a bit dark, I think, and difficult to see where we're going, but quite low kind of whisper, and then you hear like a voice which is over the top of that voice, basically say, kind of accent, and I'm not very good at accents, but basically, and excuse my French as well, it basically goes shy town. It's like completely crystal clear. And it's like, we didn't see this, or there's nothing there to indicate, and we just carried on. And the guy had the video camera went through the footage, I think it was like 2 or 3 nights after, and then picked up that EVP, and that was amazing piece, and it's crystal clear as well. I mean, for some reason I can't play it at the moment, but again, if you come, I'll show you afterwards if you can't see me. Now, I can't work out. I know the problem I got from this one was I know the 4 people that were there, I know what they said, and I know what happened during the situation. So I know that is needed. However, you can't prove that outside of those 4 people because everybody else knows that, well, it could be this, it could be that. Everyone's got a different idea and different conjecture about what the possibility of it could be, and no one believes that you've got that piece of evidence. So that's only us 4 really 100% know that that's what is the EVP that we can't explain beyond belief. Everybody else can have a theory on what it might be. That's it. This is kind of a mix of a few different sort of bits of communication. This is Bradley ahve, which we'll hear a bit more about in a bit. And basically this is a spiritual, environmental and visual sort of communication. Basically, I was there on some evening with an open group of paranormal teams, and I sat with, I think there's 5 mediums in that chapel, which isn't very big. It's like you can literally fit 5 mediums and me, and that's it in there. We were sat in there, and they were trying to communicate with spirits, sort of asking out and see, and I was sitting there sort of just observing, seeing what's going on. Didn't have any gadgets with me or anything, just upsetting. And they were talking and stuff like that, and talking to me, and all of a sudden, I become aware of changing the environment. I saw light literally being sucked out of the corner, so it went dark in one of the corners. So you got where the 2 doors are, that corner, because I was sat sort of like down that way. Basically the light kind of just went really, really dark. Now it was already dark in the room, so you think if your eyes adjust, they'd adjust sufficiently. But it was getting darker, even darker. It was a bit weird, and I also felt the temperature drop as well. And at the same time as that was happening, the mediums were communicating with something or someone saying things like, do you like us being here? Do you want us to go? Those the usual kind of questions, you know. The environmental, the visual, which I saw with my eyes, temperature fluctuation, and obviously spiritual communication all at the same time. So you've got a mixture of all of them happening all at the same time. Great location, I would say. Good control. So that's kind of a mixture of all different types of communications. Back to the Royal Oak carbon sponge, which I really quite like now. After I'd done Bradley ahve to do well, not so much an investigation, but more of a how can I put it? I wanted to embrace the experience a bit more from a spiritual kind of point of view, to kind of observe and understand that a bit better. So what we done kind of a seance, but it wasn't exactly a seance. Where we spiritual service for us, and we set up in the dining room, which is that one there, isn't it? Set up in the dining room, so we all sat around it, and we tried to communicate with spirits and stuff like that. And on that night we had several members of the group who are mediums, trance mediums, who went into trance and stuff like that as well, and communication on through. But what was probably for me, I think, which actually solidified it a little bit for me, is the fact that during it, towards the end of it, I actually saw behind one of the members of the team an arm, a white arm. Now I saw that, and I thought I'd be going to see that, but luckily somebody else also saw exactly the same thing as what I saw. So 2 people seeing the same thing, a little bit out of the ordinary, more so than an individual. That's quite interesting. And that was obviously built by the whole energy of the experience and stuff like that. And I had no gadgets or anything to quantify it, and I don't think the camera was running or anything at that point in time either. So I saw something, so it's visual, and at the same time we had spiritual communication. So you've got a mixture of the 2 again going on in order to, so basically that spiritual energy, whatever, how that works, obviously generated something to create it so high that it manifested visually for us, which is quite interesting for us. This is a whole spiritual situation. Back to the Royal Oak again. Basically, guy in a minute, Mo, he's trance medium, and we do like a tour, suppose what it was. We went around the pub, and then it's just from here, which is the swing room on the top floor. Yeah. And basically, Mo in a trance and was channeling a guy from London. And as he's doing so, he suddenly turns to Rachel, who's the landlady, sat down here, and basically basically his personality, although he was already in trance, his personality changed slightly again. At this point, he spoke more like a scientist, and he said something along the lines of, do you concept life? Do you understand a particle, an atom, parallel universe? Now, as that sounds like that, it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. But what happened before that even started, was, I suppose, later on after that, later on after that, not so long after actually, whilst he was still training that spirit, I asked him basically why you here in the rock. He didn't sound like he was from a local, it doesn't sound like a local spirit. So I said, why are you here? And he said, because you invited me. But those two things together actually linked to something that I'd already done on the Friday or that Saturday night and that Saturday afternoon as well. Because what I'd actually done unbeknown to Mo and the rest of the people that were there was I tried a little experiment where I invited certain people to come and join us, key people, scientists, one of them being miners, one of them being uninspired, people, yeah, whatever. But the key was the fact that they didn't know any of that. So I didn't know the fact that I'd invited anyone to SARS, which was because you invited me, it's a bit weird. And the fact that he said something that sounds kind of science-like as well was a bit off the scale, to be fair. That left me a bit but again, it's like that perception, it's like how you look at it. Has my mind been read, or has those spirits come through, which would be cool. I just do a little bit sort of like asking more questions sort of thing. But it's kind of back at the Royal Oak, I go there a lot, by the way. We've done a kind of more of a spiritual kind of evening. Again, we're trying to get a whole understanding of this communication, how it works and stuff like that through that angle. And sort of through the night, Terry, a local medium, who's down the front there, she came back to the group after a short break, and basically she said to the group, she said she's got a communicational message where she believed that we should be using a bottle for communication, which she didn't. I think that was it, wasn't it? Just pretty much that bit, that chunk. And we was okay, so we got a bottle, we put it on the table with us, and we're trying to figure out what it's about. So we're kind of just questioning why the bottle's there, sort of thing. And I think someone said something about, do we need to move it? Do we need to ask spirits to move the bottle, or do we need to show us that they're there, or all that kind of stuff? And then my cousin, also a medium, who's sat over there, she got a message that basically said, is it power of spirit or is it power of the mind? Now I get that as meaning, if the bottle moves, did the spirit move the bottle, or do we move the bottle with our mind? So it's basically, is it telekinesis, is it spirit? And from reading that long book, Frederick Myers wrote, he says that quite a lot in different psychology speak that I had to look at, isn't that right? And it's kind of just trying to get that angle, trying to understand that. And that question itself is like, is it spirit, is it our mind, is where I'm trying to go now. Trying to figure out, is it our beautiful mind that does that for us, or is it spirit that came with us? It's not that I don't believe either side, or believe one or the other, so to speak. I think both probably exist, I just don't know how they work together, so to speak. Right, I'm going to bail out now and get a friend of mine to help explain his perception of the communication. It's a bit of a cop-out. But it helps give a different angle. Graham Smith. Graham.
Sorry if I've got the tired face. The party last night got the better of me, so I do apologise. Yeah, so my name's Graham. I'm the founder for RSVP UK. The name is Research Society to Verify the Paranormal United Kingdom. I've been working with Ash now for about 18 months to 2 years, isn't it? Around that. And he's kind of brought me in to sort of work on the scientific side of things. Since I've been doing it for the last 5 years, or what was it, 4 or 5 years now, I've always focused on the sort of scientific side with the equipment, trying to gather, electrical voice phenomena, video anomalies, etc. But over the last year or so now, I've been able to work more on the data analysis side of the paranormal investigation, which you probably saw up there that one of the methods is environmental factors. So that's something that I'm quite sort of interested in at the moment and working on. So just a bit about my perception on communication. I believe that there is a science behind it to better understand what we're dealing with. I think when you go into an investigation, on my side of the things, you have to know what you're working with, whether or not you feel that you're working with residual energy or something intelligent. So to establish that first of all is key in what we do anyway as a practice. From that, we'll plan our investigation methods to suit that sort of activity. And what we've also been lucky enough to do is develop a bit of technology which basically takes readings of environmental factors with temperature, humidity, air pressure, EMF, electromagnetic field, and magnetic field as well. So there's one location in particular that we work with, we do a lot of work at, called Bramble Abbey, which I think Ashley showed you earlier. I've probably done about 25 investigations there, and I've learned over the many times and many, that I've been there, where all the hotspots are, what sort of times the activity takes place. And one of the interesting factors about this place is obviously it dates back to about 1,000 years back. And more recently, you've got the sort of mainland railway line that runs parallel to the actual site. And on the other side, you've got a sort of real large electricity station hub, which is next by. So it's pretty much on two sides of the site, surrounded by strong electrical currents. And reading a book last year about the South Shield Poltegeist. Has anyone read that book? Or yeah? One of the bits at the end of it was they were talking about the fact that maybe electrical equipment in the house was acting as an energy source for the poltergeist activity to manifest. So I kind of took that and thought, hang on a minute, I've been working at the Bramble Abbey site for 4 years, and I've never thought about that as being a factor. So we looked into it in a bit more in depth. And so one of our investigations earlier this year, we had one of our electromagnetic field devices around by the track area, and we started to notice that 30 seconds before a train was due to pass, we was getting an increase in flow, in current. So we looked into that a bit more, and we found out that what happens is the lines get powered up 30 seconds before the train is due to pass that section of the track. So we found that quite interesting. So what we did was we built this bit of technology, the data logger, to try and record and see if we can see if there's a pattern in this. Because if there is, then if there's this high frequency in current, with electricity, and it's hitting the property, then that could be acting as an energy source. And doing investigations there as well, activity in my eyes, when I've sort of worked it out, it would be that I would witness something 1 in 4 investigations. So with the data logger, we've set up a bit, bits and pieces in order to try and capture sort of baseline readings and then any sort of unusual phenomena. So let's go through the slides. So this is it here. I don't know if any of you seen this on our table at the moment, but after this, if you want to check it out, come over to our stand. This is a new bit of technology that we've built ourselves. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the data. So here I've got it on the 1st of November this year, the data used for electromagnetic field and magnetic field. Okay? So this was on a Saturday night. So this is what basically it produces for us. For a lot of people, if you're not interested, then you can think, oh, well, it's just one of these awful, charts, etc. But for us, it interests us a great deal. Now, it does vary over a very period of time, but this is quite a consistent reading. You're going to get fluctuations. So this is something that we're not going to be focused too much on throughout an investigation. It's, for example, as well, the magnetic field. Once again, it doesn't fluctuate too much over a certain period of time, so we're not going to concentrate too much on that. But going back to Friday night, 31st of October, we had different readings over that night. So once again, the electromagnetic field. Now this is over a longer period of time. You can see that actually what we've got here is, with the data logger, through our mobile phones, we're able to actually log personal experiences and certain events. So we can actually timeline it in sort of regards to where we are with the readings we're getting. So this particular night, the electromagnetic field wasn't fluctuating much to anything to worry us. But we go to the magnetic field.
And you can see there was a massive dip at one point in the time. For about an hour, it fluctuates. And it's just coincidental that in this time we're getting a lot of activity. Now we were using mostly. Do you know what a K2 meter is? Yeah. We don't really necessarily believe everything that it produces for us or the readings we get. But we tried to remove all the factors. Mobile phones were turned off, and we were still getting some activity with it. And this was going on for at least the hour. So a bit later on, you can probably see there's like a 1:15 a.m. Okay, part there. That was when we sort of logged down that a couple of our guests heard a female voice during the communication sessions. So we've logged that, and we also got the evidence to back it up as well. But as you can see here, and that one we showed you previously, there's a massive variation in difference there. Is it paranormal? We don't know. We're still touching base on everything. We're still learning more about the science behind it. But we just found it very interesting, and we believe that now, that when we go to this investigation, this is really something that we need to be monitoring in order to better understand when at the right and appropriate times to really hit hard with the communication with whatever we're dealing with. So once again, this is the closed-in version of it here, and there again, that's the breakdown of that time period. That's it for me. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, so they've got science side of things, approaching it, get a paper now, and bring up Michael Bryan, he's a trance medium, so his approach is wholly spiritual. So tell us a little bit about your approach to paranormal spirituality.
Approach to it. Basically, I've been feeling spirit and seeing spirit for a long time, and I'm sure a lot in the room do that and feel that. But trance is a different type and another field within the spiritual realm, if you like. How it got to me, how it started with me, is unexplained. It's just one of those things that started as I started to get into the spiritual feelings, started to get into the feeling of spirit and seeing spirit. I started just by it happening within a circle, starting in a spiritual circle, basically. Within the approach of it is another unexplained thing. How can you tell that? How can we understand the spirit side of things with me and trance? It happens when I'm in connection with spirit, and when I want to connect with spirit, and when I feel in that realm to connect with spirit, and that's basically it, really. That's the unexplained thing of how I do trance.
Short perception. When you get communication, when you go into trance, you don't remember anything from when you go on until when you go out. When I start with trance, I'm not sure if everybody understands or knows what trance is, but it's channeling the spirit basically. And how it works is I connect with my guides, I feel spirit getting close. I'm in such a connection with my spirit guides and my spirit helpers that I can let myself be taken over by the spirit, and that's how it happens with me. I just let it. I've got no idea what happens. As you'll probably see in my demonstration, Terry will be up here with me, and she's my grounding, and she's my battery. She's my big help. And how it works is unexplained. It's just the way it happens. I then go into trance. I'm only told if anybody records or videos as a record of a trance. I really can't explain anything more than that. No idea what happens, how it starts, how it finishes. That's the way it goes. It's a bit of a grey area, but that's how it works. It's an amazing thing to see. But for me, more going back to consciousness and that I mentioned the whole it's like most consciousness is literally swapped, so to speak, when it occurs, and he is someone else. Now, I come from a skeptical background. When I first saw the first time, I was like, that's a little weird. But I think luckily, I spoke to Mo, I got to know Mo before he went into trance, and that gave me a position where I understood a bit more. So it wasn't like I went in and saw a show and I came out a bit sceptical. I went in, I knew Mo, and then I saw what he could do, and then I was backed up by the same evidence that it just couldn't be explained. It's a genuine guy. There's no whatever reason for him to do anything like that. It's amazing, interesting things like, especially from a science perspective as well. He did a lot of work for Royal Oak, didn't he, as well?
Yeah, Royal Oak's it's a pub which is great. Good stuff. And it's our centre of our sort of our spiritual circle. It's got an amazing history. We just love the place, and that's how we feed off of it. Again, with that centre and what's around within that pub, it's a big factor in how I have got trance developed through the years and how I can control myself. It sounds pretty strange in a way. How can you control yourself coming out of your body for something to take over your body? In some people's minds you're thinking, how is it?
So, have you had that experience that's been sort of
Negative.
yes, something that's really, really scared you? Being taken over by something that maybe you consider inhuman? Or they always like
Inhuman?
Well, you know what I mean? Like,
I understand what you're saying.
I don't want to say demonic,
Yes,
it's not
yes,
what I like to use.
I have, because you've always got to look on the side of a positive and negative, haven't you?
Yeah.
We all know that, don't we? You're going to get your good, you're going to get your bad with everybody and everything. We all have our good and bad points, don't we?
So these like sort of entities made themselves known as another type of entity other than a human spirit. You know what I mean?
Yes, and yes, I have. Yeah. We all develop and we all progress, don't we? We all start off young and we learn and we talk and we get to an adult age and we're more mature. That's how I have developed in my spiritual path, if you like. Yes, negative stuff, yes. And that's when I've trusted in my guides. I'm a strong believer in guides, 110% behind my guides and their security with me, if that's probably the best way to put it. Terry's a major part. When I do a trance, I definitely need her because of the connection we have together. Negative, yes, I've had a couple of experiences being negative. But I think we all have that connection, we all have that feeling. If you go into somewhere, if you walk into a house and you suddenly think, I don't like it here, I'm not sure of this. You've done it, everybody's done it, and we'll do it again, won't we? And that's what happens, in a basic way of explaining it. I get a feeling before the trance starts, and I'm thinking, I'm not happy with this.
You don't leave it alone.
No, I know how to leave it alone. Now it'll be gone. Be gone, no problem at all. But getting back to your unexplained sort of beings, if you like. Yes, I have seen things, and I've seen things that probably have never even been written or photographed or even put into a cartoon because they've been that strange. But again, it's fantastic. I know it sounds strange. It's the only way I can describe it. It's been a fantastic experience, and that's how I look at it. Thank you.
If you want to see more of Mo on afterwards, do an extra sort of demonstration stuff. What we've done recently in Royal Oak, before I move on to some mentions, those pictures there, we've done a Singapore theory Victorian sort of experiment basically, where we've done a proper Victorian seance with all the Victorian bits and pieces right down to breaking soup and flowers and stuff as well. And tried to monitor that. Unfortunately, at that particular point, we didn't have Graham's data over, so we didn't get the data we needed, but that was a fantastic night, and the information was still writing it up and stuff. But Mo and I think 3 people went into trance that night. Possibly 4 went into trance that night, because we had a proper round table or anything like that as well. We were trying to contact directly with spirits related to the Royal Oak as well. So that I'll publish that on my website at some point, and you get to see sort of like the results we got from that. Conclusions. It's not really. I can't make. It's more what we know than a conclusion, unfortunately. We all perceive communication with spirits in different ways. For example, Graham's got his data logger and he sees the science. Like I do, I see the science. and the numbers, and you can see the numbers and the fluctuations. You see something happening there. Mo knows when a spirit comes close and it comes in and takes over and all that kind of stuff. A medium, standard medium, knows that someone's talking to them. They feel that, they believe that, they have faith in what's happening. Our personal beliefs and our faith, I think, in a way, as we develop from a child, like Mo said, as we grow up, I think what we learn and understand around the world creates and helps us build kind of algorithm in our unconscious minds. And I think that helps us to create that perception of what we believe and what we understand. So whether you accept spiritual, or whether you accept science, or whether you, like me, kind of sit in between somewhere, as I say, someone there. That's how kind of, I think that's how it works. And I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I don't think there is any either. I mean, I think both work. I think both would work better if they work together more. Unfortunately, we have things like social influences and things like that that tell us in society what's wrong and right, and that's half the problem I think sometimes with the paranormal field, because like most of us probably know that if you work somewhere and you tell someone at the weekend you're off to do a paranormal investigation, like we've heard several times this weekend, they're like sort of half laugh at you, or you know, or maybe take the mick a little bit. But then 9 times out of 10, after I've hired them, they'll do that in a group, and then they'll come back to you individually and say, so have you seen anything? Have you heard anything? And they'll ask questions. So it's kind of like a mismatch of social. My own perception is straight down the middle, I think. I believe that there's a possibility of spirits, because I've seen so many things that I can't explain. But that's because I can't discount it as a scientist type head. I can't discount something, so I can't say it doesn't exist. I want, like Graham, I want the numbers and the data and the backup to make that, to correlate with that, so I can understand that better. And that's what I'm trying to do, is what I'm trying to put the two together to understand better, and that's why it's all about communication. Because I think the key to start is to start with the communication, because out of all the stuff we do, investigating locations and stuff like that, whatever it is, it's all about communication. At the end of the day, if someone throws a stone, it's like they're trying to get our attention, that's communication. Or knocks or taps or raps, it's communication. If a medium gets spoken to, then that's communication. If someone gets taken over by a spirit, that's communication. If you get numbers and data on your data line, that's communication. So that's the bit we need to break down and understand. And that's pretty much where I'm up to. And that's why I've created what I call the Metatherial Project. Now, the guy I mentioned at the beginning, Frederick Myers, that's his word, Metatherial. And basically, it's about exploring the science and the spirituality of the survival hypothesis. So basically, it's taking that question of where our conscious goes after we die, but then looking at it from both angles and coming at it together to understand that. So, what I hope to do is to utilise a combination of both spiritual and scientific approaches to help progress our research exploring the Metatherial from all angles. This approach will allow us in a unity of spiritual mediums, paranormal investigations and researchers working together towards a common goal. We also hope to achieve this with using a combination of spiritual energy generated by a group of talented mediums, possibly on some occasions spiritual energy centralised at a known location, and technology available to us to monitor the circumstances of our experiments. Because you have to experiment with these things, so we have been experimenting with these things, unfortunately, trying to get it right. This project that I'm putting together is an open project. It's not about an individual group or an individual person, it's about everyone working together to get the information together. It's about asking questions and theorising, and then asking more questions and getting an understanding of the unknown a bit better from all of those angles. Metatherial, by the way, like I said, is a word coined by Myers. It means that which appears to lie after or beyond the ether. The metatherial environment denotes the spiritual or transcendental world in which the soul may be supposed to exist. So basically, in my mind, I think that means he's talking about obviously like the energy or anything that's around us all the time, and that's where the spiritual sort of links into, and where the science is trying to get to. So I think it all comes together sort of thing. So if you're interested in that project, give me a shout and we'll see if you can get involved. And that, I think, yeah. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to shout. No? Anything?
Do you class like smells as well as a form of communication? What
yes.
category does that come under?
sometimes environmental, because some smells can be debunked. If something got, I mean, I've been to an investigation where we've gone into a room and it's got a wooden table in it, but as the wooden table's heated up, it's giving off an odour because of that sort of thing, so that can be debunked. But I've also been to locations where things have happened and can't explain the smell. So yeah. Anything else?
Do you do much work with the spirit box?
I haven't, no.
No.
It might.
I just wonder your opinion was on that, because I've had a few occasions with that where it's said the same words and I've said it exactly the same time as I've spoken.
Is it?
In the same accent as well. What it was, I was putting on explaining it to my friend during a session on the recording, and I heard a voice that had come through previously. It was like a southern accent.
Right.
And I'm repeating what he said, and as he says it, it comes out of the box again at exactly the same time. And I mean, it was that accurate to the tone of the voice I was putting on, sort of like phased, you know, you layer two
Yes,
signals on top of each other, the same.
As in, I've got to repeat the same thing.
Yes, I'm just wondering if it has like a telepathic quality to it, and strange about it more than once.
Is that like a ghost box? Is that cycle up and
Yeah,
down?
my friend was like, oh, well obviously he's picking up your voice, it's an aerial, you can't speak into an aerial, it's not a microphone.
I mean, I'm a bit due to if it cycles up and down the A and down, you've got to put it down to mathematics.
Well, you get like
ability,
something like 12, 14 channels in the same voice, you know, it's hard to see to a really good station.
It's a bit out there.
I've had some amazing stuff through that, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to hear that actually. Because
Yeah.
everything I've taken about has been poor, so...
Alright, well, I've got my laptop upstairs, I'll bring it down to you.
Oh, cool, yeah, something like that.
I'll give you a look, yeah.
Yep. Yep. Cool.